Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Blunt Talk. I am your host, Krystle, with the lovely and passionate and quite fiery Red by my side.
Hi.
And we are back here today with an impromptu podcast episode. We weren't planning to do a live stream anytime soon, to be honest.
Well, I just thought to be completely fair, I asked Crystal and said, "Hey, let's do a podcast tonight," only because I wasn't available when her and Ginger did one to discuss what we were going to do with our live stream. So I thought it was only fair to do one, or maybe I'm included.
Yeah, and I actually felt quite bad about that. Like Ginger and I were frantically trying to like figure out a way to get to you before we went live, and we're like, "Damn it, we have to go." Okay.
Yeah, and
So
I know I do appreciate the fact that you tried to keep things because I guess you didn't want to speak for me, which was
yeah,
appreciated. So you kind of tried to keep it as vague as humanly possible when you did
yeah,
it. Hi,
I
Chester. Sorry, I had to
hi,
shout him
yes,
out. He shouts me out. So,
no problem. But it reminds me, shout out to Manus and Pastor G in the live chats, regulars
yay!
and fans of the show. Welcome. Thank you for coming. But yeah, and cause I didn't want to, share stuff and have and unintentionally share things you didn't want to have shared yet. So I was just like, you know what? I'll just say a general thing. I don't wanna completely spill the beans about Red, but that's what we're gonna be
Aw.
doing tonight. So,
Yes.
and I think it's just better. So, would you like to
Second.
kick us off or
I mean, I can if you'd like me to. I have no problem doing that.
go right on ahead?
Okay, so Blunt Talk kind of started out as discussing female issues. Um, we kind of strayed away from political stuff because it tends to get, what's the right word? Gets a little taxing to always
Y
discuss politics, and it makes
yeah.
me extremely volatile, more so than normal. Um, but then our most recent one that we did was, I believe it was Legends, right? Is that what we called it? I don't remember exactly what we called it. Hi, Juan.
Uh,
Hi,
hi, Juan and Matt. Welcome.
Matt.
Glad you
Matt's
guys
always
have made
here, and
it.
Juan, and Red,
Yeah, I
and
think it was
Chester.
Urban Legends ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so after we did that one, because a lot of times well, I'm sorry, not a lot of times. You guys never see that we actually discuss our shows before we actually go on and we kind of catch up and see what's going on with each other. But we also do the same thing after we're done with our shows. So what
Yes.
happened with our most recent show in regards to Legends, what were we? We were probably on it like an hour after we ended. It was about that.
Yeah.
So we were discussing, and we had so much fun doing the Legends one, like doing the research. I know I've went to some of the places where these legends actually came from, and we got to talking, and we're like, we really like doing this. So, do you want me to tell them what our idea is?
Uh, sure. Go right on ahead. I would like to add, and it wasn't just a on a whim, decision at the. I mean, it kind of was that, but um, at least based on what I took from our conversation, it was sort of something you and I were thinking ourselves for a while.
Right.
We just never brought it up until that episode, and we were talking, and we were both like, "Well, shit, we both were thinking the same thing. Why don't we just do it?" And then, of course, we talked to Ginger about it, and Ginger was like, "Hell yeah,
He's very supportive. He's one of the best people I've ever had the privilege of meeting. So that
yes." Which,
we were really worried about bringing that to him because we didn't want him to feel like we were just completely leaving fighting the void and we wanted no ties to it. And I know you guys had discussed it before. We're not completely getting away from fighting the void. We want to make it like a network of different kind of channels, different shows, different podcasting. Um,
yeah,
to reach a wider audience. So,
Exactly. Which reminds me, shout out to Ginger for just being the best big bro one could have.
and crazy cousin for me. He calls me the
Yeah.
crazy cousin, but I think he's pretty crazy
Oh yeah,
too.
no, I met him in person. He totally
Yeah,
is.
me too.
You met him in person. You can confirm it
He's
too.
too posse on himself, dude.
He's also a giant, so
Mm,
there's that.
yes. But anyway, we got a little off topic. Anyway,
Yes. Sorry, go on.
we we started talking about the supernatural stuff and the paranormal, and we're like, we both really like this, and we enjoyed because like when you do political stuff, I don't know, I don't want to speak for you, but when you do political stuff, some of the research is very low and like going through it, and you're not as
Mhm.
enthused. I found that both Krystle and I know you 100% agree with me, when we research things that have to do with the paranormal or things that have to do with legends or myths, we are all about it. We will spend all freaking day looking
Yeah.
into it. We have no
Oh
problem and we
my god.
actually enjoy it.
I mean, I write horror, so I I can spend all day on the stuff, yeah. And but you're absolutely right about researching with the politics. I mean, to be perfectly blunt,
On blunt health.
that's why I initially stepped away from doing the main Fighting the Void podcast as a co-host because it was just getting to be so much for me where my anxiety was really really bad, and I was just finding it's really not something I want to do, talking about politics all the time. I love doing that with Ginger. Obviously, I did it for how
Mhm.
long with him, but I just couldn't do the politics anymore. But urban legends and the paranormal and whatnot, yes, all day, every day, as you said.
Now that we got that out, what our idea was, um, and we've kind of discussed it with Ginger, and I know Ginger's Catholic and I'm more, what's the right word? Protestant, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess he calls me his Protestant friend. So like, we that's another reason why we kind of felt like we had to talk to Ginger because we didn't want to associate him with anything that he didn't feel comfortable being associated with.
Of
And when we
course. Yeah.
and we got some because he's kind of like, even though we call each other cousin, I almost feel like he's a big brother to me too.
Mhm.
So it was more, okay, I want to make sure I don't do anything that's going to upset him. And I want to make sure that we have some kind of guidelines set up. So
Yeah.
we want to do a paranormal type of show as well as what you'll see a lot of other people do. But I think
Mhm.
this is what's going to set us apart. We're not going to focus on the things like communicating with ghosts because or ghosts
Yeah.
or whatever they are, because Ginger made it perfectly clear to me, and I'm very glad he called me out on it. As a Christian, I 100% am thankful that he did that. It's not something that we should mess with, and it's not something we should do. So what our
Yeah.
idea was is to go to the places that are supposedly quote unquote haunted. Even as a Christian, I'm not going to say they're not ghosts. I'm not going to say they are. I'm not going to say they're demons. I'm not going to say they're not. I'm going to say, I don't know. I'm going to
Yeah.
say it's fascinating. I would like to know more, but I don't want to dabble in it that far. So we're not going to use things like
Ouija
uh,
boards, definitely
Ouija
not.
boards. We're not going to touch those.
Spirit
And
boxes.
yeah, he got really mad at me, and rightfully so. I'm
Um,
glad he called me out of that.
and I'd say if if a shoot, what's the word? Either EVP or EMP, either one of those. If any of that was ever used, we would not be trying to actively communicate. We
Right.
just basically let it record. We
Right.
wouldn't. We wouldn't. Huh? What?
No, I was
EVP.
just saying right. Like,
Oh no, Lucas was just telling me it's EVP. So,
yeah.
so like even if stuff like EVP was used, we would not be like actively communicating. We would
Hmm.
just be like run, record, and not really trying to trigger anything. And Red, I didn't tell you this, but I actually had a long discussion with Ginger about that stuff because I'm sort of like I don't want to mess with it, but I can also see like why someone like a scientist or whatnot or something or a person like that would sort of
Hmm.
use that as a way to sort of find evidence of
Right.
spirits or not because it sort of really toes down line between okay uh, doing this for science and doing something that's kind of crossing the line. So
Right.
but
No,
I'm
Ginger,
also
or I'm sorry, Pastor Zach, 100% right. It has the
yeah,
potential to open up spiritual doors you don't want open. And he did.
exactly.
He definitely laid on my ass, and like I know he thought that I was upset, and then he made me upset. It was more like a rebuking thing, and I did. I'll be honest, it did sting a little bit, but I that's why I didn't want to say too much at the time because I knew I was reactionary at that time. So I didn't speak to him. I just kind of separated myself just so that I could gain perspective and look at it from the point of being a Christian, and is this something that God would condone? So I had to take a minute. I'm like, oh, being
Yeah.
rebuked kind of sucks. But I'm
Um,
very glad he did it.
Also, I would just like to clarify, we never had the intention of going into this wanting to use things like a Ouija board or whatnot.
No.
We sold if any technology is to be used, it is solely things of the scientific nature, like
Right.
they use like the heat, the thermal. Why am I blanking on all these terms? I know them, but basically any technology that would be used would be like a basic camera,
Mhm.
something to detect the thermal energy and such. We never would go into this with a Ouija board or anything, nothing like that.
But I think it's
So,
important to let people know that we have no intention of interacting with it. I just want to
yeah,
make sure that anyone who wants to follow us over and see what we have planned to do knows 100% we are not going to be engaging with anything. Basically, what
mhm,
we're trying to do is to see if there's any evidence of what these people are claiming, whether it be actual ghosts, demons. We just don't know. We just want to see if there's evidence of it. We don't want to interact with it. We just want to go to these places. And as a lovely thing I'd like to announce, I'm super excited about, we're actually going to start incorporating video. We're going to
yes,
start videotaping where we go. Um, and Krystle and I have talked about, and I know we did when we had our sit down and our, what did we do it on? We did it on StreamYard when we talked to Ginger, right?
yeah,
Yeah. When we had our sit down with Ginger, like I said, we did it over StreamYard. We discussed potentially trying to interview people in the area to see if they would sit
mhm,
down with us on camera, give us the okay to do that, and discuss some of the things that they heard. If it comes down to local legend or if it comes down to outright hauntings, we're not sure. It'll probably incorporate a lot of those things, but we would really
yes,
like to do more of the interactive with humans that are actually alive and talk to
yeah.
them and see what they've heard, what they've experienced, and just set up some kind of equipment. But once again, not interacting with them, just seeing if there's any kind of evidence that would make other people believe that these things are actually going on.
Yeah, and as I told you before too, you can still investigate a lot without having to actively try to communicate with them.
Right.
And I feel like that would be a good route for us to take because, I feel like so many of these, ghost hunting shows, like even if they start off with the best of intentions, they quickly devolve into basically just the people poking the bear. And
Uh-huh.
I it absolutely makes me sick sometimes because it's like, okay, guys, I can you guys are messing with shit you should not be messing with. like
Right.
like like again, if you're like a scientist and you're using like an EVP, I still don't know how I feel about it, but I can understand because you're going at it from a scientific aspect. But people who go out there and actively trying to poke the bear and actively trying to open up something they should not be opening, that no, that does not sit well with me, and it's
That's stupid.
also it's stupid and it's also quite disrespectful. Uh,
Well,
because
yeah, if
I
you look
know.
at it, when I'm sorry to cut you off, when you said like disrespectful, let's say they are actually people who have passed on. Like I said, I don't know 100%. I'm not sure where I am with that spiritually. I don't know where I'm at with that religiously. Um,
Mm,
let's say that they are. It's it's very disrespectful to be like, talk to me right now. Like you see what they're doing. They're like, oh, if you're here, show yourself. It's like if that's a thing and you can communicate with somebody who is living and you're dead, it's like, dude,
yeah, and
calm down.
and to use an example just from today, because my family's interested in like they're interested in this stuff as well. Where do you think I get from? But they were watching a thing they had recorded out of curiosity, and in the show, I kid you not, the host was actively trying to call upon the spirits of since deceased ghost investigators, or are you familiar with Ed and Lorraine Warren?
Yes, of course.
They were actively trying to call upon the ghosts of Ed and Lorraine Warren, and I'm just like, dude, this is so disrespectful. Like, dude, they did their time, they did their work. Why are you trying to disturb them?
Well,
Like,
I did see the one video, and they had actual evidence of like voices. And I'll be honest, I don't know where I stand with it, but it sounded spot on. It sounded spot on. Like I said, I don't know. I'm just saying.
yeah, but just like that stuff is disrespectful, and I think that's another thing too that's important for us going into this is that we're curious, but we also want to respect the fact that if there are ghosts, and we don't want to
Shut up, Juan. I don't want to talk about Annabelle.
you know we don't want to go in and try to poke the bear. We're curious, and we just want to investigate these things and see what's out there, you know?
Right. And I think it's important that I let anyone know that might be spiritually here, like a Christian, I don't know, pastor. But for me as a Christian, it's not so much trying to prove or disprove the fact that there are ghosts. It's more for me trying to prove that there is something on the other side or there's something in another dimension. That's all I'm trying to prove, that these things are actually real, whatever they are. I don't know, but I think that that would be kind of like a door into the supernatural for other people that might actually open up a way to communicate about the afterlife. Is specifically for me, um, as a believer in Christ, it gives me kind of like a doorway in, but also being able to show them that you can do these things and prove these things exist and there is another side without actually violating anything scripturally,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. And once again,
Yeah.
Ginger, if you come in here, I'm so glad you rebuked me. I was very upset at the time, but I'm very glad that you did it. Thank
And since you mentioned your reasoning for wanting to do this whatnot, I think for me, because I think I'm finally getting to a point where I'm still not necessarily concrete on something, but I feel comfortable enough to say I'm at a point where I consider myself a Christian.
you.
But
We got you. We got you. Ginger, did you hear this? We got her.
you can credit Lucas for this. But
I don't want to. I don't want to give Lucas credit.
but
Oh, wait.
but
Margot is Ginger's Catholic friend. Hi, Margot.
hi, Margot.
That's a cute little
Um
girl's name in Despicable Me. I'm sorry. She's
but
adorable. I like her.
even before I was at this point, the I feel like the main drive for me has always been the sort of knowledge aspect of it. Like I'm one of those people. I just want to learn as much as I
Mhm.
possibly can. Sometimes to my detriment, because right now I'm learning Polish and it is melting my brain. But knowledge.
Yeah, you sent me some of that stuff you're working on now, and I'm like, yeah, I'm stupid now. I don't know what you're
Yeah,
telling me.
yeah, it's one thing because I'm learning with a friend who's it's off topic, but it's one thing because I'm learning with a friend who is in Europe, and her native language sort of has similar. She's used to having to form word sounds a certain way, so she can. So it's still melting her brain, but is sort of like familiar with the territory. I am not. I am not used to having to figure out how to pronounce a shush and a ch sound at the same time. I can't do it's hard. Right after the other. It's hard. But anyway, we're not talking about Polish, we're talking about ghosts.
Oh,
But
also, I don't know how you feel about it. Like I said, when kind of like this is all up in the air, which is why we felt like it'd be good to. Well, I sent it out in the tweet that I thought it would be good to say that we'll take questions or suggestions because I don't know how you feel, Krystle, but like who was it? I think it was Matt brought up like Bigfoot. I would absolutely 100% be willing to not only do supernatural things, but also try to research kind of like legends, myths, and creatures that could exist. Because let's just be honest, especially as Christians, Catholics, whatever, we're kind of all the same. Essentially, we're the same. You're the same belief in Christ and yada yada yada. But there's got to be more out there. Like all this stuff that we're
yeah.
seeing, I would love to explore that.
Oh, I
Um,
fully believe there's more out there.
or there's got to be. There's
I but I'm actually glad you brought that up because I'm actually kind of kicking myself for forgetting to say that at the beginning of the episode. If you guys have any ideas or suggestions that you'd like to see us do, keep in mind we are still planning out and figuring out a lot of what we want to do and like the first place we'd like to go and whatnot, and figuring out how to achieve those things. But we would absolutely love to hear what you guys would like to see, especially since everyone in the chat has been loyal
mhm,
listeners and frequent listeners and just some of the best people you can have for a podcast. So thank you guys,
absolutely.
and we'd love to see what you'd like to see.
And I think it's important we kind of go into how we plan to start it, like what the beginning looks like and what our end goal essentially is. Do you mind if I kind of take that a little bit of what we
Uh,
kind of see? We've
sure.
discussed it with Ginger. If you disagree with anything that I'm saying, just cut me off. I have no problem.
Uh,
Rebuke me.
sure. Go ahead, though. I will like to say first that this will probably mean that we'll be starting something different from Blunt Talk.
Yeah.
Well, as in coming up with a different name and stuff.
Yes, we plan on coming up with a different name. And I know you guys touched on it a little bit. It's going to be like I said before. It's going to be fighting the void, and then there's going to be different kind of channels. Like look, think of it as I guess maybe a TV channel, and then there's going to be different shows on it. It's
Mhm.
basically like that. So what Krystle and I have discussed, and what we would like to see happen for right now, because of financial stuff, um, we're going to start out doing things separately. We're going to start out where maybe, excuse me, one time it's going to be Krystle researching and going to specific areas in her location, the one show, and then the next time it's going to be me going to a different location and doing my own thing. But it's going to be all part of the same thing. But what our ultimate goal is, and I hate to say this, and it makes it sound like we're asking for money, but eventually, what we do plan on doing, hopefully, we get enough subscribers, we get enough people there for us, enough people that like what we're doing that will help us financially, because ultimately we would like to be able to go to places at some point, at least once, to be able to meet each other and go and do this together, where we can have one thing. We're like, hey, I really want to go and do this. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, and like I said, I hate saying it like this because it sounds like every other person that's out there with give me money. But ultimately, we would like to do some of the things together where we can kind of make the video together, we can kind of interview people together, and we can turn it into something that's fun for everybody, not just us, but the people that view us and the people that support what we're doing. Um,
Yes, and, I don't mean
that's
to
a
cut
long
you
way
off.
down the road. It's a long way
Yes.
down the road.
Yes, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I would like to address some of the questions popping up in the chat. Um, well, okay, first I will say, uh, so once we figure out a way to raise that money, which will most likely be a Patreon,
Mm-hmm.
once we figure that out, we're still figuring it out. Again, this is still in the starting stages. However,
Right,
please do not feel pressured or like you
right.
have to give us money and join a Patreon. Please, you do not.
Yes.
We appreciate if that's something you like want to do but feel like you can't do, please do not feel bad for that.
Yes.
If like at the very like all you have to do is like even just spread the word about it. We're
Yeah.
not expecting you to get to throw money at us. We are
And
not.
like I said, we expect that to happen a
So
long
I just wanted
time
to
down the road. No, that
yes.
part's a
Yes,
long ways
exactly.
away. We would much
Yes,
rather you guys
we have
go ahead.
oh, oh no, I was just gonna say, yeah, we have a lot to figure out first and a lot to do first before we get to there. So go on.
Yes.
And then I'll address the
Because
questions in the chat.
okay. Because right now what we're trying to do is, like I said before, Krystle does things in her area or somewhat close enough that it doesn't put a financial strain on Krystle or, Lucas. And then I will do the same in my area or kind of close within traveling distance of my financial means to do it. I have no problem putting a little of my own money into this because I think it could be something that's really fun and really enjoyable for everybody. So I'm willing to put that money out there. And like Krystle said, please do not feel like you have to donate your money. That's not what we're trying to do. We would much rather you guys just spread the word. We love that we have even just a few loyal people that are always here listening to us and willing to support us. We would much rather have that
Yes.
than financial needs.
Exactly what Red said. And to
Yeah.
quickly address some of the questions, Pastor G asked, "Are you guys opening up a new YouTube channel?" Yes. Whenever
Mm-hmm.
we are able to get this up and running, we will have our own separate channel. However, we will still be part of Fighting the Void, and Ginger and all of us are working on building a website where you
Mm-hmm.
can find all of us in one place. We are still part of Fighting the Void, but we will have our own YouTube channel and manage as like multiple separate channels. Essentially, like I said, we're
Mm-hmm.
working on a sort of website where you can find all the different channels, like Fighting the Void, and whatever ours ends up being in the same spot.
Right. So it's easier for all of you guys to find people that are essentially like Ginger. We're kind of the same, but in our own little quirky way, different. Does that make sense? We're all
Yes.
essentially the same people, but we just build out things a little bit differently. Oh my
Yes.
gosh, Krystle, guess what?
What?
I didn't swear during this entire thing so far. I am
And
growing
I
as a
did.
human being. I know you swore before. I did.
This is weird.
It's really weird. You've been
Really
hanging
weird.
around and talking to me on the phone too much.
Yeah. Yeah. But
But that's
anyway,
yeah, that's kind of what it looks like what we want to do. And I know I am really big on Bigfoot because that's something that to me is plausible. Like it's really not as far fetched as say I don't know, a demon that like there's a statue in a building and there's a demon there and the statue bleeds from its eyes. Like I don't know. It's a little
Yeah.
more it's a little more plausible because it's a gigantic ape. I would love to find evidence of Bigfoot. I would love it.
That would be
But
cool.
but by the way, you guys, if we can get to the point where Krystle and I try to find Bigfoot, there will be drink. I will be drinking, and you cannot stop me. And it will
Oh,
be
no.
all on video. You know,
That scares me.
you
I
cannot
am
hunt
suddenly
Bigfoot without
scared.
shot.
I am suddenly really scared.
It's okay.
Oh, so so what would you guys like to see?
Oh,
Besides
and
red green, obviously.
I think it's very important we kind of include our idea with your boyfriend Lucas because we did say if we end up getting to the point where we are able to get monetized on YouTube and we have enough subscribers that we are getting financial financial gain. I keep saying it like that. It sounds so horrible. But if we are able to do that, we are actually going to have Lucas as our
Yes.
cameraman. Just so you know,
Mhm.
we have a big, strong. Okay, he's not that much taller than me, right? Okay, whatever.
No.
We have some man, a man present to protect us from Bigfoot. Okay.
Yes, we need I'm so glad you brought that up, Red. We do need a shout out to Lucas, otherwise
Mm-hmm.
known as the Illuminated One or Lucasio Illuminate on Twitter. You guys should
Mm-hmm.
recognize him. Hopefully he'll pop into the live chat so you can see him. But he will be our cameraman once we're able to get further with this idea. And which works because Lucas loves directing, and he'll be the cameraman that adds snark to everything. So there's that.
Oh, and Pastor G had said, I will be plugging you guys in different channels and social media outlets. Well, Krystle, with the way that we want to do it and the way that we want to investigate the paranormal, I would almost go as far as to say it's more of a Christian type of paranormal investigation where you're not actually interacting with things on the other side. I would venture as far as to say it's more of a Christian perspective of it, whereas we're not going against anything that God would dictate that we shouldn't do and we shouldn't mess with. It's just trying to present evidence to, at least for me, present evidence of the other side so that I can use that to say, hey, guess what? When you die, that's not it. That's just my personal opinion and how I'd like to go about it.
And like I said, for me, it's more of a knowledge thing, while also
Yeah.
not stirring up any shit.
Well, what did
um.
you and Ginger say? You and Ginger said like what was that one thing you wanted to investigate at some point with me and you, like the Blair Witch cave?
Oh, the Bell Witch.
Yeah, and you do. What did you two both tell me? You're not allowed to take anything. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
oh
Yeah, 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 because you were joking like, "Oh, I'm gonna go see what I can," and we're both like, "Do not take anything from the cave. They
man.
play they made it a rule for a reason, Red. Don't take anything from the cave.
I'm like, fine, fine, I will not.
Don't
Oh,
take
I'm
it."
glad. See, Pastor thinks this sounds fun.
It is, and it will be. It will be, and
Well,
you know, you don't have to try to stir up shit to have a good investigation and to have fun with it. You
well,
just
and it's
don't.
it's interesting the way that Ginger got on us and made sure. And you know what? I really hope God is listening right now because he is a darn good. I said darn. Ew. Uh, a good follower of Christ because he made sure that we weren't doing anything that would go against what God would want us to do. And I
Mhm.
think because there's a lot of ghost stuff out there, right? Like there's a lot of people who do paranormal investigations, but I think doing it the way that we intend to do it, it's going to set us apart and make us a little bit different, which is, I think, something that's very important and
Yes,
needed.
I agree. And if you don't mind me saying, I feel like, and a large part for me with approaching this too is I my number one priority, because I do believe there is other things out there, and I do believe there are good things and there are bad things. And for me, the biggest thing, my top priority with us doing this is our safety. And I do
Mm-hmm.
not want us going into a place and us, because even us not actively trying to communicate anything can, we do still walk into the risk of something coming back home with us if there
Right.
is something there. And my number one is making sure we are safe. And I do not want us to put ourselves at risk
Right.
of bringing something home, especially not anything demonic. Because to be perfectly honest, I do think there are things that are demonic or things of the demonic category. And I refuse to do anything that would put us at risk of that. And even us not actively trying to communicate with things,
Mm-hmm.
I set to, and I want to put in place sort of uh, safeguards. Like,
They are
okay,
real.
before we go into this place,
I'm
like
sorry,
before we go into this place,
Margot said demons are real. I just wanted to say they are.
yes. But, like, for example, before we go into a place, we do something to try and protect ourselves. And then when we go out of a place, we do something to sort of like cleanse and make sure we're safe and we're good. Things like that. I want to make sure we have those things to protect us as much as we can.
Right.
So
And
I
because
just wanted to put that out there. Safety is my number one priority.
Right. And since we have Pastor G in here and also Margot, who is a Catholic, if you guys have any suggestions for us, like we've said multiple times, we don't intend to try to open up those doors. We don't intend to give them any idea, whatever they may be. We don't intend to give them any idea that we are there to communicate with them. We just want to see if they're going to try to communicate with us. If you guys have any suggestions of prayers we can use or anything of that nature, things we can carry with us, we would greatly appreciate it. You could either send it to our DMs or you can list it in the chat right now. We would greatly appreciate that. Um, I'm not entirely sure how that works. I'm not comfortable because from my understanding from a religious perspective, if you're not opening up a door, they can't get in. But at the same time, I don't know what opening up a door is 100% because I don't know. I know 100% that trying to communicate with them would open up that door, but I'm not sure if what we intend to do is possible to open up a door. But I would rather, like you said, take precautions to make sure that those things don't actually happen to keep us safe.
Yeah, and a lot of people are mentioning holy water. Oh yeah, that's like at the top of my list. I am way ahead of you guys. But yeah, and I with what we currently have planned to do, we we won't be open from my understanding of what we plan to do, we wouldn't be opening up any doors. We'd mostly just be observing what's there. We're
Right.
basically just observing an environment. So I think at this point in time, with what we have that we want to do, we're good. We just
Mm-hmm.
need to fully figure out our safeguards, which I got of course, suggestions are welcome, but
Right.
I will, because I haven't told you yet, Red, but I do have a lot of ideas, and I have a lot of that stuff covered right now
Okay.
of safeguards we can take.
All right. Pastor G, if you have any suggestions on how we can do that, um, not that you don't know, Krystle, just I thought that it would be it would be a smart route to take to get multiple opinions on it and multiple suggestions. So Pastor G, I know you follow me on Twitter. If you want to send me a DM of some things and precautions that you think we could take, I'd greatly appreciate it. Also to Margot, I'm not entirely sure if you do follow me on Twitter. It is my handle is war like fire. If you want to shoot me a DM, I always have my DMs open. I would greatly appreciate that. Or if you feel more comfortable, you can always approach Ginger and he can let me know. Or the same with Krystle. I don't know if you follow Krystle, but either one of you. And it's not to disclude anybody else. It's just I know that they have spiritual beliefs, so I would obviously go to them more for spiritual protection. No offense to anybody else who's in this chat.
Is there I'm trying to think of if there's anything else you feel needs disclosure or you'd like to say.
In regards to what? I always have something to say.
Just
It's just
everything on a whole.
um okay, so the way I see us proceeding and the way that I see us doing things a little bit differently, I've noticed, and Krystle I know watches because we talk all the fucking time. I always curse. Darn it. Try so hard. Um, I know Krystle watches as much stuff on the paranormal as I do. So I know she's going to understand this. I'm not entirely sure everybody else here will. But when it comes to supernatural programming, what I've noticed is they spend 99% of their time engaging with the other side and
Mhm.
not as much time doing the back research in regards to what's going on in a specific area, and they don't spend as much time talking to the people that are actually in that area that might know what's going on. I would like for us to be more the opposite. I would like us to spend
Yeah.
more time focused on the people in the area. Like, what did you hear? Did you have any experiences? I would like our show to be different in that way, where we talk more with the living than we try to do with what
Yeah.
we consider to be the dead. I would like us to
And
think that route.
that actually reminds me of another thing too. I think an important thing, especially since you and I have talked before about being empathic, I
Mm-hmm.
think another thing that's important is a lot of these shows, the people, they they spend too much time jabbering and trying to like interact with things and whatnot, and they don't pay enough time to just observe their surroundings as themselves. I like paying attention to like how the area feels and sort of
Mm-hmm.
what sort of things they themselves are feeling and picking up on. And I think that's something that'll
Right.
be um I think it'll be kind of interesting for us because we both know more sensitive than the common person to these things. I think it'll also be interesting to see like what us paying attention to our surroundings
We know
instead of
it.
getting lost in it. I'm not saying actively
Right.
try anything. I'm just saying it'll be interesting because even not being sensitive, you should be aware of your surroundings.
Well, you know what, Matt? Since you did bring it up, Red needs to talk to the Amish. Since I am close to the Amish, I will go out of my way to try to get someone in the Amish community to sit down and speak with me. Now, understand that when chances are, if I get anyone in the Amish community to sit down and actually discuss anything with me, they will not want to be on video. I can tell you that 100% right now because Amish belief is it's essentially stealing your soul to be videotaped or to have your picture taken. So I would want to respect that. But if I can get their, their permission or their consent, whatever, to use their voice, I 100% will. It's just what you would want me to do in regards to the Amish. Like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
also, go ahead.
go ahead. Oh no, you go ahead. I didn't really have anything else going wing it.
I was just going to say, since we are empathic, I think that it what might be cool for us to do is we go to the specific area that we intend to research or, whatever you want to call it. We go to the area before we actually sit down and talk to anyone.
Yes.
Um, just so we can get our own, like to see if it lines up with what people actually say. I think it would be
Get, a,
interesting to do it that way.
get ourselves an unbiased opinion.
Yes, an unbiased feel for the area, the building, wherever we go. I think it would be kind of interesting to see if the vibes we pick up on are accurate.
Yeah,
I think it would make for a better show if we did it that way. And then we interview people and we talk to locals that are in the actual area.
I agree. I
Shut up,
fully agree, and
madness.
that's and I've been personally thinking about that as well as it might be good for us to do things to find a way to get our own reading and opinion on the environment before we take in a, because obviously when you're reading about a place to decide if it's a place we want to go to or not, we're going to be hearing about some stuff, but try and limit how much we initially take in so we're not basically not having too many cooks in one kitchen,
Right,
or so we're not um, because sometimes if you psych yourself up and you put yourself in that environment and you psych yourself up and you're thinking about all the things everyone said, you're gonna psychologically,
hmm
the logical aspect of it, psychologically
right,
you're going to unintentionally start seeing or feeling or hearing the things other people talked about because
right,
you're whether consciously or subconsciously psyching yourself up and you're sort of your mind starts playing tricks on you because you're anxious and such.
right. Okay,
So
and like Pastor G said, 1 John 4:4, you are of God, little children, and have overcome them, because he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. Now, I would say that, and I'm not trying to be rude to you, Crystal, but I've kind of been a Christian for, geez, I don't even remember. But I would say that I am greater protected than you are. So I would, and this isn't to push Christ on you. I'm just saying it's something to think about. And I would want you to take every possible precaution that we can make sure that you take to make sure that you are protected. Because and it's not to be rude, and I hope you don't take it this way, but I think you would be much more likely to get something to attached to you.
rude, madam.
I'm just saying, I am more because like we talk all the time. You're like my little sister, remember? I don't want anything to hurt
also
you.
also like I said, I'm far ahead of you. I've been compiling things for safeguards.
Right, and I really hope you are. But like
Oh,
that's
yeah.
basically that's kind of basically where we are with everything. I don't think we need to take spiritual or supernatural protection when we go to try to find Bigfoot or Pastor D mentioned Loch Ness. I don't think we would need supernatural protection for that. But when it comes to anything with the spiritual stuff and things we cannot see, that's definitely something that we have to make sure that we do things the right way when we do them.
Quickly, I just wanted to address because Amanda said, "What is so hard about sensing supernatural things?" It's not. I was more so referring to people who don't pay attention because they're too busy. Either like there's some shows where they either talk nonstop, even when they do like think they pick up on something, they just won't shut up and long enough to actually pay attention to what they supposedly picked up, or they're you'd be surprised. There's a lot of people who go about their days not paying attention to their surroundings. And as for Matt, who said the person that is not involved should do the research and provide a narrative and history, that would work. But I'd argue there would still be some sort of knowing of, because Red and I, Red, you and I like to talk to each other about these things. You and I like
We talk
pitch
to each other
these
about
things.
everything.
Yes.
Even our
So,
periods. I mean, come on.
uh, whoa,
Whoa,
cue ginger
sorry.
popping in,
Just
cue ginger
scratch
popping in right at this
that.
moment. But but we both still have some sort of knowing because we both want to tell each other about the idea before going through with
Right.
it. We can still try to limit it, but um, there'll still be some sort of knowing between the two of us. And Lucas, I know those shows are boring. That's the whole point, sir.
Yes,
That's the
madness is 100% accurate. That's what I want to stay away from. I'm very glad he
yeah,
brought that up. Like he said, most supernatural shows are fake. They are only pretending things. And I think that's
yes,
something that I 100%, even if it's a boring ass podcast, right? Like, even if it is boring and nothing happens, I do not want to go out of my way to say, ooh, the chair moved and have it attached to
exactly.
a string and have somebody else pull
Yeah,
that string. I don't want to do that. I want to stray away from it because I think that at least, and I am 100% sure that Krystle's on board with me. I want to make sure we're as authentic as we possibly can be. Like, hey,
oh
this is
yeah,
what, yeah, this is what people say has happened in this specific area. We have seen
yeah.
no signs of that. We have not had that happen to us. So
And the
we
thing
are
is,
saying bullshit.
that itself can be interesting because I feel like a trap a lot of people fall into is a lot of people assume that a place that supposedly has activity is going to automatically everyone's going to have the same experience there.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily. There's been countless occasions where there actually was something there, but either something because one person did something and the other person didn't do the same thing, or just the types of people there and whatnot. People attract that activity, and others just go through it like not having a single clue.
Right. Well,
So
and
I
like,
think that's
go
another
ahead.
thing. Yeah.
Well, like
Oh no, I
Madness
was
has,
just gonna say.
like Madness has said, like, why is it so hard to pick up supernatural stuff? What we are specifically talking about, and me and Krystle have spoke in depth about this. Her and I, no matter where we're at, we pick up on feelings in areas that we're at. It sounds weird to people who actually don't have this, and I would say it's a gift and a curse at the same time because if
Yeah.
and I know Krystle's the same way because like I said, we talk about everything. If I walk into a specific area and something bad has happened there, I feel that energy, and it's not something that I am consciously doing. It's just something my subconscious picks up on. And I think that some people are just more susceptible to those kind of things and other
Yeah.
people aren't. And I'm not,
Hmm.
I would like to investigate that at some point too, by the way. I
Yeah.
would like to find out why some people are more susceptible to feeling those things in certain areas and other people are completely oblivious when they go into those areas.
It would be fascinating. And I think it's going to be fascinating too, going into these areas and seeing how you and I, experience them. Like, will we both experience it the exact same? Will one of us have more, um, quote unquote activity than the other?
Right.
Will one of us pick up on more and the other not at all? Or so I think it'll be quite fascinating
Oh, who said
to
that?
say the least.
Matt. Matt said we need an interview of a priest that does exorcisms. I would 100% be on board with that if I can find any priest in my area, which would most likely be a Catholic priest. If I could find anyone in my area that would be willing to sit down and discuss exorcisms with me, I would 100% be on board with that to find out what you have to do, how you know it's not mental illness. Um, you know what I mean? Like, I would love to sit down with a priest and discuss those things. I'd have no problem doing that. And if Krystle
Yeah.
wanted to do it in her area, I'd say go for it.
Oh, I I'd be down to do interviews. I mean, in little backstory on myself. In high school, I took a journalism class and actually had to go out and interview a member of the city council for an assignment.
Oh,
So Yeah, so it'll be fun to dip my toes back into doing interviews.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on. We have a Trump is king in the chat, and they said, your liberal riots backfired on you Democrats. You just handed Donald Trump at least 10 million voters. Nobody appreciates watching their cities burn. Okay, so for that specific person, um, none of us in this chat are Democrats. Like, none of us are Democrats. So I don't even know what the hell you're talking about.
And we aren't even discussing politics, and we do not wish to discuss politics right now.
Right.
So,
Um, we are
so
talking about the
let's move
Democrats
on.
who are possessed by demons right now. That's what we're talking about. Anyway,
So let's just move on.
right.
um. So,
Does
yeah,
anyone have
we're
any
actually
questions
yes. Before
or
we fully
suggestions?
wrap up, any last questions or suggestions because we are approaching that time.
Honestly, I think for our loyal followers and loyal viewers, I think I would really like to see if, and I don't want to give you guys homework, but I'm probably going to anyway. If you guys want to, I'm in southeastern Pennsylvania, so if you guys happen to stumble upon anything in my area that might be worth checking out, shoot me a DM. We're like fire. My DMs are open if you're on Twitter. Um, and let me know. Do not, and I cannot repeat this enough, do not give me any actual information on the area. I want you just to tell me an area that you think I should, and please make sure that it's something legit, something that you know about, something you've researched about, um, that has either um, like paranormal stuff involved or some kind of creature involved. And I will go and check it out. I'd like to start that as soon as possible, actually. I will go and check it out.
Hmm.
Um, and then I will try to link up with some locals in the area to discuss what you mentioned to me. But I would like to check it out first. And that's why I'm specifically stating please do not give me any information on the location. Because I want to go there. I want to see what I feel, what I pick up on, so that I can record that in a video so that I don't have any bullshit kind of feeding my psyche.
Yeah. And if there's any areas within the state of Georgia, I'm not going to give a specific region, so just anything Georgia in general. So
Smart. See, I
I
dox
already have
myself.
Savannah at I already have Savannah at the top of my list, so you don't have to worry about suggesting Savannah. But anything
Ugh.
else I became to learn about.
So basically, what
Savannah.
Krystle is telling you, anything close to Savannah. Sorry,
Fun
I'm just here
facts,
to.
though.
What's the fun
No, no,
fact?
no, you're fine. Fun fact, Savannah in I don't know if it still is right now, but last I looked, Savannah is considered the second most haunted city in the entire U.S., with New Orleans being number one.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, see, just to throw it out there, I am very close to Gettysburg. Just saying. I am close enough to travel there where it's not going to hinder me financially.
Mhm.
So, but unfortunately for you, if you would suggest an area in Gettysburg, I probably know all about it and like the history behind it and the supernatural shit. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I really would like to try to find an Amish person to sit down with. I don't really know what that would do for us as far as the path we're trying to take, but maybe talk to them about the supernatural. It would be interesting
Yeah. That would be interesting, actually.
to see how they feel about it. And then I can
Yeah.
get some Dutch potato salad too. So,
Yeah.
but like I said, if I specifically am going to do something with the Amish community, they're probably not going to let me videotape them. And that's just something, if you
Yeah,
guys want me to do that, that's just something you're going to have to respect, because I am certainly not going to try to disrespect a religious community by doing things they don't feel is acceptable to God. I'm not going to do that. But if you're
exactly.
okay, if you're okay with me putting some stupid stuff on the screen while they're talking, I mean, I'm all about it. I have no problem sitting down with the Amish and talking to them.
Yes.
Shut up. Find an Amish place where they allow women to talk. I don't know what you guys think you know about the Amish, but that is not the case at all. I don't know what Amish people you think you know, but that's not the case. I've never, and I have to throw it out there because I know them personally, not like the whole Amish as a community, but I've never had a problem talking to them as a woman. I've never had any inkling that they're not okay with me speaking. So maybe not slander them, Madness. I'm just saying. Because the ones I've talked to had no problem with me talking and asking questions.
Yeah.
Ooh, Krystle.
What?
That's a good one to do. It's not supernatural at all, and it's not a legend thing, but I think it would be interesting to discuss their they have this thing, I forget what it's called, but when their children turn a certain age, they're allowed to go out and experience the world, and then they have to decide if they want to remain in the Amish community or if they want to go out into the world. And then they're essentially disowned. I would love to discuss that.
That might be something to mention to Ginger. I think he'd be interested in that as well.
Yeah, because I don't want to do anything on our show that's kind of like getting away from that. So maybe I should
Yeah.
present that to Ginger to see if that's something that he would allow me to do specifically on his channel, because he doesn't really have a set thing of what he does.
Yeah.
And it is a religious sect.
Yeah. So the chat is winding down a bit. So, and we have reached our hour mark. Would you like to close up, Red, or?
Oh, I don't, I'm just here.
um, I
Wait, whoa, whoa,
think.
whoa, 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 hold on.
Oh, okay, okay.
Dutch Bigfoot was shown on Fox News. What? What
We're
is
gonna have
that?
to research that.
What is that?
It's a Dutch Bigfoot, Red.
Hi, Matt. Um, See, Pastor said the same thing. I live by many Amish, and talking to women isn't an issue, as far as I know. A lot of people have a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to different religious sects. Like, there's never been an issue. I've never had an issue with Amish men. I've never had an issue with Amish women. In fact, I would much rather talk to them than the average person. And
And
I
on
have
that
to
note, oh,
No, no, no. Wait, I want to
go
put
on.
a story in because people are kind of essentially bashing the Amish community.
Okay.
Madness. There was a story that took place, and it wasn't far from where I'm at. I'm not going to say exactly where it was, but there was an Amish schoolhouse, and Krystle probably knows. That was there was a man that kind of went into the Amish schoolhouse, and he ended up shooting a bunch of Amish kids. And instead of
Oh.
yeah, the Amish community is so loving. They invite, and I actually read about this recently. I think it was in my crimes book. They had so much love for Christ and what he wanted for people and how he wanted them to behave themselves after their children were shot and killed, mind you. These people invited, and the man ended up taking his life, which most cowards do. Let's just be honest. They end up taking their own life. But the Amish community, people who have lost their children to this scumbag, invited the wife, the widow, and their children to come to these kids' funerals. And they would do vice versa. They actually went to this man's funeral. The man who killed their kids, Krystle, they went to his
Oh, man.
funeral and said it was not their place to judge him as a bad person. That was God's place. They went to his place. They forgave him, and they had a setup. I forget what the fund was, but they ended up getting money to help their
Mhm.
community because after their kids, were killed, they ended up getting a bunch of money to help them and whatever. They put some of that money towards helping the widow and her kids. That is the
Oh,
Amish
wow.
community that I know. I don't know the
Yeah.
Amish community you guys know, but that's the one that I know.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
And this is interesting, and I feel like I have to say it because it's respectful towards the children that actually lost their lives that day. Um, some of them survived. Not all of them actually died. They were all shot, from my understanding. They were all shot. Some lived, which is how we actually know what happened in that schoolhouse. Um, the one girl had said that she wanted them to essentially, because they let the boys out for whatever reason, I don't know. They let the boys out. She said to the man keeping them that he was to shoot her, kill her, and let the rest of them go. And then her sister stepped up and said, no, kill me too, and let the other ones go. That's the Amish community. So please don't
Oh, wow.
slander them. Yeah, I've actually seen the love of Christ in them more times than not.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I know. I had to throw it out there, Madness. I'm not bashing on you. I just want a good representation of the Amish community. I've never seen anything negative. They are very loving. Everyone that
Yeah.
I've met has been very loving.
And I think that's a good note to end on.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think so too.
thank you guys for tuning in. We love and appreciate every single one of you.
Yes.
And we look forward to showing you guys what we do with the future of our podcast.